Good morning, everyone. I'm Ed Quatrevaux, the city's Inspector General, and I'm here today to report to the people of the city about the state of sex crimes classification and reporting by the NOPD. I'll be followed by Superintendent Harrison, and then our Audit Chief, Erica Smith, will give you the detailed findings, and she'll be followed by the Executive Director of the New Orleans Family Justice Center, Mary Claire Landry. We'll take your questions then, and I'll ask you that you hold them until then. I promised 2 years ago that we would audit sex crimes reporting every year, and today we have the findings for 2015. What we found was that all files had required documentation. 99.4% of calls for service were classified correctly. There was one error in 154 cases. There were no downgrades of sex crimes to miscellaneous. Instead, there was an upgrade of 78 cases that had been called in as lesser crimes and had been upgraded by NOPD to sex crimes. And last, what we saw that we didn't see before was evidence of supervisory reviews, both first and second level on these cases. It's rare for any organization to correct a serious problem in 18 months, but NOPD has done it. And this turnaround is very impressive, and NOPD deserves praise for their effort, as do its Superintendent, Deputy Commander Paul Noel, Commander Doug Eckert, and I'm sure many others. Thank you. Chief Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Quatrevaux, and I have to say a special thank you to Howard Schwartz from the Office of the Inspector General and their entire team, to all of our deputy chiefs, commanders, to our supervisors in the Special Victim Section, especially to Ms. Tania Tetlow, the chair of the Mayor's Sexual Response Advisory Committee, and Mary Claire Landry, who's with us also from the New Orleans Family Justice Center. In November 2014, I stood with the Inspector General as he detailed the results of an inquiry made into the work of the NOPD Special Victim Section from 2011 to 2013. Mayor Landry made it clear the problems identified were unacceptable. And then I made a commitment, along with the men and women of the police department, to get this right. What we know now is that the majority of the problems identified by the OIG were the result of either bad systems, no systems, or poor supervision, or a combination. Over the past year and a half, the NOPD has worked with everyone in this room to bring institutional and lasting change to the way we report, the way we document, and the way we investigate sexual assaults in New Orleans. Our comprehensive response included 3 parts. Number 1, investigating the officers outlined in the original report. Number 2, reinvestigating the cases outlined in the original report. And number 3, putting in place new practices to ensure that this never happens again. First, our Public Integrity Bureau launched a comprehensive investigation into the work of the 5 officers outlined in the report. Investigators worked systematically through each case touched by the detectives to determine if there were any administrative violations or any criminal misconduct. Through that investigation, PIB identified an additional 6 supervisors having some level of involvement. That investigation is now complete, and in consultation with the Office of the Inspector General and the District Attorney's Office, we found no evidence that any criminal misconduct had occurred. However, a number of administrative violations were identified, and the disciplinary hearings for those officers and supervisors are scheduled to take place over the next couple of weeks. At the same time, I appointed then Commander Paul Noel to lead a special task force to reinvestigate cases worked by these 5 SVS detectives from 2011 to 2013. Excuse me. In addition to the initial sexual assault cases referred by the OIG, the special task force took on several other cases that involved one or more of the 5 detectives. And so our goal was to ensure that all victims of these crimes feel that justice has been served. To ensure justice, the team approached each case like a cold case detective by gathering as much evidence as possible to bring a final case to the district attorney for possible prosecution. In addition, the OIG and the Federal Consent Decree Monitor review every investigation completed by the task force. To date, the task force has completed 106 of those investigations. Of the 106 completed investigations, 10 of those have been cleared. That work has transitioned from the current SVS to the current SVS unit team and is now ongoing. Finally, with the assistance of the Mayor's Sexual Assault, the Sexual Violence Response Advisory Committee, the Consent Decree Monitor, and the OIG, we completely overhauled the Special Victim Section to root out the problems and to get this right. We brought in new leadership to immediately right the ship and improve accountability and supervision. We created and implemented new systems of accountability to ensure detectives properly investigate and document all sexual assault investigations. New standardized investigative checklists that require supervisory verification that the work is actually being done. The SVS commander and supervisors meet weekly with detectives to review current investigations, and supervisors are now required to attend all district attorney sex crimes charge conferences and then document all of the outcomes. We invested in the SVS to give the detectives the tools they need to do their job and to be successful. We gave them all new smartphones so that they can maintain contact at all times with all of the victims. We gave them all brand new vehicles to get to the scenes quickly. We gave them brand new cameras to better document crime scenes, new laptop computers so that they can work from anywhere. And then we gave them a 5% pay raise to all SVS detectives and supervisors to recruit and retain the best. And to show my commitment to the victims of these terrible crimes, last year I moved the entire sex crimes unit to the Family Justice Center. Now this gives our detectives additional resources to provide to victims. But still we know that the caseloads can be overwhelming. In fact, in the first quarter of 2016, the number of reported sexual assaults was actually up 95% compared to the same time last year. Believe it or not, that's a good thing. That tells us that the victims of sexual assault are feeling more comfortable reporting these crimes to the police. But it also means we need more detectives. So I beefed up the SVS by adding additional detectives, and we will continue to add detectives to that unit as we grow. We also brought in civilian investigators for the first time and social workers to help. That brings us to today, where this independent report shows that the hard work we've done has made a difference. Not only is there no evidence that a single case has been downgraded, but NOPD actually upgraded classification of more than half of the sex crime cases we receive. This is a clear demonstration of our commitment to actively and aggressively investigate all rapes reported to us. The report further finds that all the investigative files reviewed by the OIG contain complete and appropriate documentation. This is an important accountability tool that ensures that no case will receive anything less than a complete and thorough investigation. The progress we've made is undeniable, but to be sure and to be clear, we still have a long way to go. I'm confident we'll continue to improve and bring lasting change at the NOPD to ensure justice for all victims of these heinous crimes. So thank you. At this time, I think Ms. Erica Smith is coming.
Good morning. My name is Erica Smith, and I'm the Deputy Inspector General for the Audit Division. I'd also like to introduce Ali Barbier. She was the lead auditor on this engagement. In May of 2014, we released an audit that found NOPD misclassified 46% of rape offenses. Rapes were downgraded to a miscellaneous offense, and there were no reports justifying the reclassification. We also found that supervisors did not review case files. In November of 2014, the OIG's Investigations Division released a report about sex crimes investigations by 5 detectives. Investigators found that officers did not submit supplemental reports. There were discrepancies between NOPD reports and other factual documentation, and there was no effective supervision. Because of these deficiencies, we conducted another audit to determine if NOPD corrected these issues. In 2015, NOPD implemented 3 sex crimes policies. These policies provided detailed guidance on interviewing sex crime victims, collecting evidence, documenting the results of the investigation, and ensuring adequate supervisory oversight. For this audit, we obtained 100% of the case files pertaining to all calls for service in the 4th quarter of 2015. In total, we looked at 154 case files. 100% of the case files contained documentation. That means we saw things such as initial reports, supplemental reports, victim witness statements, as well as SANE reports. We also found that all case files contained evidence of supervisory review. As far as the reporting goes, NOPD reported 99% of the calls for service in accordance with the guidelines established in the UCR handbook. And 51% of those calls were upgraded. That means that the crime came in as a lesser offense and NOPD classified it as a rape. We also found that no rape offenses were downgraded to a miscellaneous offense. All right, if I can direct your attention to this chart for a moment. NOPD reports its rapes on a form called a Return A. Now, these improvements have impacted the rape counts. There are three main reporting columns on this chart. Column 2 contains all allegations of rape. Column 3 contains all unfounded complaints. In other words, the elements of the crime did not meet the definition of a rape. And column 4 contains all actual rapes. Now, this column is what gets reported in the FBI's annual crime statistics. As you can see, there is a steady increase in the number of reported rapes since the OIG notified NOPD of its intent to audit the UCR reporting. In 2012, prior to notification, NOPD reported 136 actual rapes. We can see that steadily increasing in 2013 to 176, 244 in 2014, and 409 in 2015. Now, we see the largest increase after we issued our reports in 2014. We saw a 68% increase from the year before in the number of rapes reported. Now, this is a 200% increase from the time that we notified NOPD in 2013 of our intent to audit them. Now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Claire Landry of the New Orleans Family Justice Center.
Good morning. I am standing here just so proud of the work that has happened. I want to thank the chief. I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Tania Tetlow for leading this sexual assault response task force. We worked very hard to really look at the combination of the whole system and really give the police the kind of support that they need. We know from history that if we provide a multidisciplinary approach for victims, that it works, and this is demonstrated. And I guess what I want to say is that in all of my years of working in the system, the city really came forward with resources and really provided the things that we advocated to say if we're going to make a change, we really need these kind of resources. And the city really created that response, made significant investment in resources so that this team, this Special Victims Unit could really address the issues that we have. And now I'm proud to say that these detectives are proud to be part of this unit. They have done a remarkable job. And I just can't say enough. And I agree with the chief. This is only the beginning. There's lots of pieces to this puzzle. We have lots of different complicated systems involved. We need to be looking at the prosecution. This is the first piece in this process in terms of making the system work better. So we really want to see the number of prosecutions increased, and we also need to make sure that judges are really giving victims justice through the court process. So we're going to continue working at this. We're going to continue advocating for the community to really invest the resources in this unit and in the police department, because what we have clearly shown and demonstrated through this process is that if they have the resources that they need, then they will accomplish the outcomes that we're looking for. And I think anybody in this community really wants to see NOPD really produce the kind of outcomes that will ultimately reduce violence. And I think that this is clearly a demonstration that they need the resources and that we as a community really need to step up and support them and give them the resources if we really want to address this crime. So I'm just so pleased. We've been very happy to have them at the Family Justice Center. We know victims really respond when there is a multidisciplinary approach and when we can really close the gaps and really look at this from all disciplines, from advocacy, from law enforcement, from prosecution, the whole system. So this really demonstrates progress, and we just couldn't be prouder to be standing here to congratulate our officers in blue for the hard work that they have done, and just to be open to embracing us and letting us be at the table with them to problem solve this issue. So thank you very much, and we look forward for continuing this work. We still have lots of work to do, but I feel confident that we will continue to build on this success. Thank you.
Okay, time for your questions. I'll try to direct the traffic here. First,
And have we noticed any change in the number or the percentage of arrests and sort of, as Mary Claire mentioned, down the line of
No.
prosecution?
no, the starting point is just as she says, you got to have the data accurate. You know, you've got to be handling the cases right at that level. However, I think you should ask the DA or maybe Chief Harrison, but I would be willing to bet that the prosecutions increased apace.
One of the things that especially resonated with you that showed to you there was proof of systemic change in the sex crime.
What aspect? Well, the totality of it. The four findings we had in our original reports are essentially reflected in this report. What was bad before is very good now, very good, and it's a remarkable turnaround, and they deserve great praise. I want to point this out to you just as another indicator, an external indicator. This is the average of rapes to homicide in the United States from 1985 forward. Around 1997, after gradual increases, it finally got to a steady state somewhere between 5 and 6 to 1. NOPD, on the other hand, had not such a good record. They began reporting in 1985, and it was almost 3 to 1. Time the national average was 4.5 to 1. Unfortunately, that curve went down for us while it was going up for the rest of the country. And we ended up with this incredible gap between the United States and the world. Here, there were approximately 3 homicides per rape as opposed to 5 rapes per homicide. That's 15 order of magnitudes below the national average. It's inexplicable. We're not that different. We may be different, but we're not that different. And what you see, which is reflected in this chart, is the inflection point on that, on the end there. That arrow's going up. We're getting ready to join the rest of the country. We're moving into the good zone. Now, there's not much good about sex crimes, but you're not going to solve them, and you're not going to have very much deterrent value if you can't process them and people get away with it and people know that they get away with it. So this last bill is the clincher. This is external, okay, this comparison. So we have both the internal evidence as well as this external check. So I'm confident that the changes are real.
This may be more of a question for Chief Harrison. Can you talk about the 5 officers that they're going to face administrative possible sanctions but no criminal activity? But you just look at the numbers here, from 153 to 490. Was there a culture of systemically downgrading crimes that were UCR crimes? Because, I mean, the numbers just right here jump off the page at you from where they were to where they are now.
I think the report talks about it. You've heard Mr. Quatrevaux talk about this. It's a number of issues, not necessarily downgrading, but misclassifying. And our systems were bad. Sometimes there was inadequate supervision. Workload and caseload was through the roof, was well beyond the capacity to be able to properly investigate and supervise. All of that together, we've changed all of that. We've added more detectives. We need to add more. We've changed processes. We've changed protocols. And so while some of it was bad investigations, poor supervision, some of it was actually systems problems. And so we've corrected all of that. We did find administrative violations on the part of each one of the officers accused, but we also find that on the part of the supervisors. And so disciplinary notifications have gone out, hearings have been scheduled. The discipline is forthcoming, and they will be holding those hearings within the next couple of weeks.
And it's 11 officers, 6 supervisors and 5 officers, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Could they be terminated for their actions if you don't like what you find, could they be terminated for their
Well, I don't want to, the hearings have not been held. They have not had an opportunity to present any mitigating circumstances or have their due process. And so I don't want to speak to what I would do until I hear all of the facts. The chiefs that will hear this will hear all of the facts, weigh all of the evidence, make a recommendation to me.
This might be a question for Paul, but how many of the cases that you reviewed have resulted in new charges or you said I think 10 that were dropped? But, I mean, can you go through and talk about how those are proceeding?
Come on.
So approximately 4 of the cases that we reviewed resulted in new charges. Some of the cases, many of the cases that the OIG found, they found problems with them, but didn't necessarily result in us being able to initiate criminal charges in those cases.
What about the upgrades? Does that point to a dispatch issue that you need to look at further?
Well, that's a good observation, and I think we will, but no, we have not.
Chief, a question, we're still hearing from some of the victims who were not happy with the way their cases were handled at the time of the OIG's first report, who still say they are not happy and feel that they have not been given the justice they deserve from the police. What's your message?
My message is that we made a full commitment, and obviously we sympathize with all of the victims of these heinous crimes. But we have made a commitment as a department, and I'm so proud of this entire team, all the way from the chiefs to the commanders, to lieutenants, sergeants, detectives, and all the officers around the department who've embraced this change. Our commitment is to overhaul this, and we've done that with the help of the OIG, with the help of the sexual assault response team. Our health director, Charlotte Parent, has been part of that. The consent decree monitor has been a part of it the entire time. The entire team worked very hard to put new protocols in place for measures of accountability. We've done that. And so we made a commitment to do that. And while we cannot go back and undo the past, what we can make a commitment is to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and to make them know that they can feel comfortable reporting to us that every case gets a thorough and complete investigation. We've done that. We're still doing that. And so we want them to be assured that you have competency and quality in the investigators and the investigations within the NOPD sexual assault unit.
You want them to give you a call back?
They're welcome to give me a call. They're welcome to give me a call. We can talk about that. My word to them is we want them to feel confident that we've made the change that we promised we would make. And while we can't go back and undo the past and undo the hurt that's been done, we hope that they will find some comfort in the fact that we've changed our system, and now going forward, we're working to still investigate cases, but we've changed all of our processes to make sure that this never happens again, and that we're now a model for other police departments, units like this to follow.
Professor Tetlow, can you talk about the sexual violence response advisory committee update that we got handed when we walked in?
I think it gives a good overview of the progress we made since the first report 6 months ago. The point of this committee was never to create a report recommending changes that then the city could act upon. We were all about action from the beginning. So we worked hand in hand with the city, with NOPD, and everything that we produced was documenting the changes that had already been made and implemented and everything underway. So I've never been part of a process that worked this quickly and this well. There were no obstacles that we let get in our way. If state law forbid us from doing something, we worked together to get state law changed. If we needed funding, the city wrote a grant and got $1 million federal grant to help redesign the practices and procedures around rape kits and to test the ones that are in backlog. It was a really extraordinary effort of the advocates, of the department, of working with the detectives to see what they needed. And the ultimate sign of success is twofold, both this audit and the qualitative, quantitative work of detectives, but also the increase in reporting. That is for us the biggest sign that we have regained the trust of people who have gone through this horrible experience, that they know they can reach out to detectives and get the kind of experience that will help them try to seek justice. And that is all about having social workers embedded in the unit who will go out to the scene, who will keep their cases throughout. It's about more communication with victims to make sure even if nothing's happening on the case that they hear from detectives. And it's about being located at the Family Justice Center so that they are worked into the kinds of services and referrals they need to help heal.
Chief, you're saying all 11, the 6 supervisors and the 5 officers who were named in the earlier report are all facing pending administrative disciplinary action?
We have found that there are allegations against all 5 detectives and all 5 supervisors that the Public Integrity Bureau has found as sustained. I think it's 6. And so sustained means that there was evidence to support that the allegation has merit and they were able to prove the allegation. And so those disciplinary hearings notifications have gone out and they're scheduled for the next couple of weeks. And so those officers and supervisors will be attending those disciplinary hearings, and the discipline is forthcoming.
I would just like to respond to the question about survivors that are still out there and still do not feel like they have justice. And I would just tell them to contact us, contact the detectives, contact one of the social workers, make contact with us because, you know, we are making system-wide changes, and it may or may not impact one particular survivor that is suffering through this, but we really want to be there for you. We want to help navigate you through the system. We want to give you the kind of information that you need so that you can move forward with your life, whether it's going to proceed to a court hearing or not. But please just come and work with us as we navigate through, because a lot of this attention has been on the systems issues, not necessarily each individual survivor who has suffered through this. But we are here for you. We want you to come and just give us the information because we can help navigate that for you and see where the case is, where the shortfalls are, where you feel you are not having justice so that we can help facilitate that for you. So I would welcome any survivor to please contact us and work with us so that we can get it right for everybody. This is a long-term process. It's definitely not something that is short-term. So I would just, Bill, if you or any of the reporters hear of survivors, just encourage them to contact any of us in the system, and we will facilitate information for them and give them as much information as we're allowed to, and help them facilitate what they perceive to be justice in their own cases.
Mary Claire, since you're in the center and since the unit moved to your office, what are you actually hearing from the victims about how they feel they're being treated and the case is handled now?
I think we're seeing much better response. Now, you know, there's a whole slew of survivors that may not be involved in a current case, but those that are coming, those that are recent cases, we're definitely seeing a better response. They're coming in and getting a whole range of services. We've put in a system so that you know, we're reviewing these cases regularly. We're working with the NOPD social workers so that there's communication back to the victim to let her know what's going on with the case. We put in a system so that at that time, at the end of the case, if it's not going to move forward, that we're going to make contact with the victim so that she knows this is the circumstances of her particular case and this is why it can or cannot move forward. So we've made a concerted effort to really get that information because that's what survivors want to know. They want to know what's happening with my case. Do you believe that this happened to me? And is the system going to be responsible and responsive to what I need? And that's what we're trying to create. So to say that we have captured every single survivor, and I know there are some where their cases go back a long time, again, just come back and we will certainly let you know what's happening with your case and facilitate the movement on that. But we are definitely hearing significant positive responses from survivors. They are definitely getting more information on their cases than ever before.
Okay. These people have done a lot of hard work and accomplished a great deal. without taking anything away from that, what we see today is an example of constructive oversight. Oversight that promises only a check. Oversight that hopes to help, to train, to teach, and to assist departments in the city in improving their operations. I promised the chief that we're going to do this audit every year, and we will continue to do that, as I say, every year, until we get a report like this every year for, I don't know, a couple of years in a row, and then we'll do it every 3 years and that sort of thing. But the important thing is that people in city government need to know that the work they do, the decisions they made, are subject to external review. Not antagonistic review, but review really of your peers. And it's just one of the most remarkable turnarounds I've ever seen. It's spectacular. All right, thank you very much.